Welcome back to another episode of Craft on Tap, Growth Marketing for RIAs. I'm your co-host, Stephen Beach, the CEO of Craft Impact, and with us is my co-host, Faustin Weber, a marketing strategist on our team. Today, we're going to be talking about how do I show up in AI search results for LLMs like ChatGPT. So, Faustin, why don't you kick us off and let's just dive right in.
Yeah, this has been, I'm sure if anyone's listening to this has been hot in all the social media feeds, especially for us as marketers. But I've seen more and more financial advisor influencers, marketing influencers putting this content out as well. So I'm sure it's a question that has come up. It's also something that's come up a number of times with our own clients who've been asking us about it. I just had a client actually who was saying he was out on the golf course with another executive, and they were talking about AI search and how it's taken over the landscape. So I'm excited to talk through this today because it's something we've been working on internally, discussing, sharing our brain power, and it's still something that we're all learning. And I think it's important to acknowledge that right off the forefront, that if you're listening to this down the road, there may be some different things that we discuss that are outdated, or people have learned more things. It's definitely something that it's rapidly in motion, I guess I would say. It's not the traditional SEO of the past where people have really kind of fleshed out exactly how Google's operating on a year-to-year basis. It's something that we're still all learning. Is that fair to say?
Change is the only constant in AI search or in AI tools in general, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been pretty rapid over the last like 6 to 12 months, I would say. Okay, so that's enough of a disclaimer, I would say, right?
Yes.
So before we talk specifically about like some steps to rank, I think it's important just to take a step back and talk about what's happening right now in search. So, we're seeing in Google, and I'm sure you guys have noticed this, whoever's listening, a big rise of queries that are triggering these AI overviews, right? So it's essentially you get on Google, you type in what you want to see, and then Google replies with an AI response to you. And what that has done is essentially just killed traffic across pretty much every industry. I'm seeing people complain about it from everything from manufacturing to the advisory space to any sort of B2C brands. Like there's just traffic has been completely destroyed. There's definitely more impressions. So like if you look in Google Search Console, there's the number of times that you show up or that your website shows up in search versus the number of times that you actually get a click into your site. And so you see the impressions go up like sometime around March. And then the clicks go down, and it sort of creates this effect of an alligator opening its mouth. Everyone's talking about it as the alligator effect. So something that we've talked about a little bit with clients is that our traffic is down, and it's just because Google is keeping more and more people right on the search page. So I think that's important to understand within the context of this overall AI search discussion.
Right. So just
at the same time,
let me just interrupt. One quick thing. Just why is that happening? Google is prioritizing what they call zero-click content. We've talked about this a little bit before, but when you go into a Google search, you enter your search. Most times now, you're going to find your answer right there at the top. Like it's 3 or 4 lines that gives you your answer, and it's usually pretty good. And usually you don't need to go click, or scroll down, and you don't need to click into anything. That's what we're talking about, right? It's just that answer is right there for you and literally just shows up, and then you're done. Like that's the page and you're out. So just to make sure everybody knows that's what we're talking about. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then at the same time this is happening with overviews, like you just laid out really well. We see these with AI search, like with each quarterly study that comes out, we see this increase in AI search use across ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, all these different LLMs. Google is still king. I saw a great Datos report from Q1 of 2025, which feels like so long ago, right? Over 4 months ago. But it showed that Google is still king. But every single time one of these reports comes out, it shows more and more of a usage of these different AI tools when it results in search. So it's actually a SEMrush just had this like bold prediction based on the trend lines of how traditional search is declining a little bit from Google and AI search is on this like rapid increase, that AI search is going to overtake traditional Google search by the end of 2027, which is just mind-blowing.
Wow.
If you think about it. That's only 2 years away, right, if that would happen. So what are we seeing, right, throughout this landscape? So we're definitely seeing an increase in AI search referral traffic. This is usually done using Google Analytics. There are a couple of other ways to do it, where you can filter by ChatGPT, Perplexity, and referrals. And so we have seen a little bit of an uptick, not like a monumental uptick, even on some of the client sites that we have that get thousands of visits a month. But we have seen a little bit of an uptake. And then we are seeing, for certain clients in particular, ones that you would feel like are probably more on the cutting edge of using AI type search, right? The 30s and 40-year-olds that are, where the audience is like tech friendly, they are tech efficient, they understand, they're on the cutting edge of all these trends. We have seen an uptick in this answer of like, how did you find us for new prospects coming in? We have found that more and more are sourcing AI as where they've actually found the firm. One of the firms that we work with in particular, we've seen this uptick from Q1. It was about 6% of all their discovery calls, whereas Google was still 24%. And then in the second quarter, we saw 19% of all of their discovery calls ended up being from AI search. So that uptick, right, is something that we're responding to and that we're aware of, and that we want to make sure that we can, put our clients in the best possible position. We know Google's going to have some sort of rebuttal. They're in kind of a quandary right now about how they approach this, because they have the AI overviews. They understand ChatGPT is kind of bridging into their market a little bit, and so they got to figure out how they're going to do ad revenue, how are they going to pull up the links above the AI overviews, and so they're in a little bit of a quandary, but we know they're going to have a rebuttal. So this is just something that continues to ebb and flow. It feels like every couple of weeks from on the behalf of the marketers. Do you think I missed anything there, Stephen, and kind of laying out the landscape a little bit and what we're seeing?
No, I think that makes sense. Just one more comment on the Google's, model. They make a lot of money off ads from search, from their Google search tool. So, they, like you said, they're going to have to figure out how to adapt to this, and I'm sure they're working very hard on that. And we're just trying to follow along. But for years they've made a lot of money off of the 3, 4, 5 top placed links on the top of your Google search, or somewhere near the top, anyways. Right, and now those places aren't getting as many clicks because you got the answer way up at the top, and it's just showing to you right away. So, yeah, they're trying to figure out how to adapt to it as well. So, yeah, again, it's changing quickly. It's going to continue to change, and this is where we are, kind of middle of 2025.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so before we jump into like specifically how we've gotten some good results on getting found, right? I think it's important for us to just slow down for a second and just maybe hop off the bandwagon just for a second and ask the question of like, why do I want to show up? And what types of queries or prompts do I want to show up as? Okay, so let's just think about the target audience, right? Your target audience of your firm. For simplicity, I think we can break it down into two groups of people. One is like, hey, I'm actively looking for and researching to try to hire an advisor, right? These are the people that are like trying to research, if they've gotten a referral, they're trying to look you up in a kind of a referral capacity, or people that are trying to find an advisor and are not really sure exactly where to go. And then the other group of people is, I'm looking for more information about a financial topic, whatever that would be. So two groups of people, right? I mean, there's funnels and different things. Like the farther up the funnel would probably be the people looking for more information. The people down at the bottom of the funnel are the ones that are like actively looking for an advisor. So if you think about the people that are looking for information, right? Most advisors, they ask about SEO. They know traffic is important. We've been taught that traffic numbers are important. And in our past marketing world, it was the educational blog articles that drove the most traffic, right? It was like kind of the old way of inbound marketing, was to try to anticipate what people are searching, and then you want to rank high in Google so that you rank high, so that somebody who's trying to figure out that information or whatever they're looking up, you want to be able to educate them, build trust with them, and then sort of entice them to download something on your blog article. Then once you get their email address and their information, you sort of can continue to sort of foster that trust and nurture that trust with emails, and then potentially try to get them to take some sort of action. So if you wanted traffic, you wanted to show up on Google results because there was more bites at the apple, right? More chances for you to show your expertise and credibility, and then to potentially convert them by earning a download. But we've seen, like, the past few years, we've seen the effectiveness of this because we had some early momentum with this type of approach in the early 2020s. Even on the B2C level, it's typically very effective on the B2B level. But we've seen some effectiveness early on with this, but that's kind of tapered off a little bit. People are getting they were getting the information on the blog articles, educational content, and then just dropping off. We saw like pretty high bounce rates on a lot of this more upper level, upper funnel type of educational blog articles. And now, since Google is keeping even more people on the platform, right? They don't even really have a reason to go to your site anymore. So I think going back to AI search, it's important to take a step back and say, okay, so even if I am showing up on AI search results, like even if my firm, my company is one of the links that AI returns back as one of the citations, how important is that to actually driving leads? Like even driving newsletter signups. And Stephen, I know I was talking with you about this recently. There's an article from ARS Technica, and it was citing a Pew Research Center analysis from March. So again, a few months removed from when we're doing this. But the big conclusion that they had, I think they analyzed something like 500,000 Google searches. The big conclusion that they had was with searches that had Google overviews, the AI overviews, only 8% of those searches resulted in someone actually scrolling down and clicking a link. And then what's more important, I think, for our discussion of AI search is that only 1% of those searches ended up with somebody clicking one of the citations, right? So just think about that for a second. 1% of all searches with these AI overviews where it answers the question, it gives them what they need, they click on the actual citation. So we don't have the numbers from ChatGPT. At least I don't have a research study or anything readily available. But if you can, sort of make an inference, if on Google they're only clicking on 1% of the citations, on ChatGPT, if they're searching for educational information and ChatGPT is giving them the answer, even if they're citing you, right? Even if they're citing your firm, how likely is it that they're actually clicking in to one of those sources,
right,
or citations, right? Probably pretty low. So I definitely think there's reasons to be the expert from the LLM perspective. There's a great amount of reasons to get cited, right, for other purposes. I just think that the goal of being cited in itself, just to be the expert that the LLMs are referencing, I think just needs a little bit more context, a little bit more nuance as part of this conversation. Does that make sense? I know it was a little bit of a diatribe on my part.
That's perfect. No, it makes total sense. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's just make sure we're clear about our priorities. And then, okay, so that's that group, right? Like that group is on ChatGPT. They're on AI overviews. They're not necessarily going to go to your website to read about any sort of something educational because AI has already given them the answer. And then you got the other group of people that are looking for an advisor, right? These are people that are actively prompting searching queries so that they can find an advisor. Now, in the past, they may have, typed in financial advisor near me, or I'm looking at financial advisor stock options or something along those lines. Now we know just from talking to our clients and also just from our own user behaviors, they're using more sophisticated prompts, right? So I need help finding an advisor to help me with stock options as I don't know how to exercise at what time of the year. Or I'm looking for an advisor that manages taxes, investments, and can help me build a financial plan. Or here's all the important information from my financial statement, or here's my tax return, ChatGPT. Is there an advisor in my city that can help me? Which would be the best one? So
Nice.
much more nuanced, much more sophisticated, right? So, that is, I think, an important, we're going to be talking about, like, for the 6 steps that we're going to lay out, how to get cited in these circumstances, how to come up as one of the 3 or 4 firms. And I think this is really why you spend time building expertise and authority around topic areas, so that you do show up in your, some of those more educational type prompts. It's not necessarily to build traffic to the other pages, right, that you're building, but to get cited as an expert around these particular topics that your audience is looking for. I think this is even more important with the agent mode that just came out. And for any of you guys listening, for agent mode, it essentially can take all sorts of different actions on your behalf, search specifics. It'll like pull up its own desktop and do 45 different actions at once, and then prepare a report for you, versus just do search. But again, it's important to take a step back and think to yourself, okay, you're getting cited, this is great, but is your target audience really searching like this, right? Like these prompts that I just shared. Are they looking up the financial advisor near me, or are they more relying on referrals from your family and friends and trusted colleagues? And we just did an entire episode on pay-per-click spending with Google, and how we haven't seen a lot of results, because we've determined that individuals with higher net worth are not necessarily querying Google to try to find an advisor in that way. Like, they have a kind of a limited window of potential referrals and groups of people that they hear about that they trust, and that's how they're figuring it out. It's very similar. We can make an inference that that's the same. You can apply the same logic to how they might be using ChatGPT. Yeah, they may have more nuanced prompting, but in terms of thinking about your firm and where the time and energy is going into, right? You may be much better off thinking of your own clients, right? And thinking of your referral marketing before you all sell out in trying to show up in these AI search queries. There's no doubt that it benefits you to be ranking for these, for the people that may be searching that. But in terms of where you put your time and where you prioritize your time, there could be other channels that are going to be much more effective for you.
Right.
So I just wanted to share all of that. Hopefully that makes sense. Like, don't necessarily just sell out and put all your eggs in this one basket of AI search. An omni-channel approach with clear goals, maybe focus just on referral marketing if that's where you figure out your target audience is living. That might be a better way to go about it. And you just got to ask the why on those 2 groups with your target audience, and to see if it's really worth spending time on.
I think that's a really good.
What do you think?
I think that's a really good takeaway to come back to. Just always come back to, right? Is just, well, 2 things. A, focus on your clients, market to your clients, and spend most of your time and energy and money on marketing to your clients. And then B, always be thinking about your ideal client or your ideal persona whenever you're trying to evaluate a specific marketing tactic or an overarching marketing strategy. So those are 2 things that I think go into like our methodology as marketers for financial advisors. Is that those are the top 2 things we got to keep in mind. Those are kind of our North Stars, I guess, alongside how we align our marketing strategy to the company's overall goals. That's really important. So I guess it's 3, but those are our 3 kind of North Stars, if you will. So I think that's a really good point.
That's a really good point, right? For the company that I mentioned before, that's going after tech professionals in their 30s and 40s that are making between 200 and 500,000 a year and haven't built up really high net worth yet, but they have great earning potential and they have stock options, for instance. And it's a group that is going to be more inclined to be on ChatGPT, using it for sophisticated, nuanced prompts, and probably has much more, feels much more comfortable based on their age range and the growing up with technology and everything else, looking for an advisor in this way. Like, it very well could be that that's a great use of your marketing budget and time, is to really go all out across all these different channels to make sure that you're cited so that you can get pulled up for these queries. But for firms that are trying to attract retirees, for instance, who haven't quite jumped on the bandwagon of these AI trends as of yet, where are you putting your money right now in 2025? Is it selling out to try to get ranked for these queries that you're not even sure if they're going to click into your website anyway? Probably not, right? So I think it's just like that kind of case by case. I've seen so many. It's kind of like for you guys as advisors, when you see all the clickbaity headlines around the market's about to drop out, like we're into a recession, and you guys are constantly having to say to everyone, like, stay calm, stay invested. That's what I kind of feel like right now with the marketing. It's just like, okay, hold on. Yes, AI search is here. Yes, it continues to exponentially increase, but it's not quite ready to sell out everything else that you've been doing that doesn't relate to this.
Okay, nice. Stay calm and mark it on.
Yeah, I think stay calm.
One thing to clarify, maybe, when you talk about citations, and let's go back to the two buckets of people. The person looking for the educational information about, traditional versus Roth, and then the other bucket, which is somebody saying, I need an advisor right now. I'm actively looking. I'm trying to find one. Go back to those two buckets of people. When you say citations and doing the work to get the citations, are you talking about the first bucket, the people looking for the educational content, or the second bucket where you're talking about trying to get mentions in these AI tools for those kind of search terms where they're saying, I need a financial advisor near me that manages my, or that can look at my, past year's tax return and give me a good financial advisor recommendation based on that. Or are you saying those two things, we know they overlap to some degree, but just clarify that for us a little bit.
Yeah, I guess so. I would say, a mention would be your firm actually getting called out in the response itself, either for both of those buckets, right? Like, Craft Impact has shared this, and like we're getting listed for an advisor or for a marketing, advisor looking for a marketing company, versus Craft Impact getting mentioned on an educational, maybe there's a statistic or a survey that we have as part of one of our educational blog posts, and it gets pulled up as an educational response, right, in that first bucket of people. So that would be like more of a mention. And then a citation, I guess I would say, is I'm thinking more just like I'm talking more of like getting sourced, like it shows up on the response that you can click in as a source to your company's website or to your firm's website.
Yeah.
Or if you go into the sources and you can see that ChatGPT referenced your website to build its response.
Yeah.
So that's an important point of clarification. So I guess the mention, right, or even a citation would be just like our text coming up in the actual for that brand awareness piece. But then I was thinking more of like the actual links that go out to the firm website.
Nice. Which nobody clicks.
Very unlikely that they would click onto those.
Those links that nobody's clicking, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, the links no one's clicking.
All right,
yeah,
beautiful.
Exactly.
The dead links.
Okay, so let's talk about GEO, AIO, all sorts of different names for this right now. We're going to go with Generative Engine Optimization, GEO. For the purposes of just, having fun with acronyms in the marketing space.
Sounds like we're in the military. That's all they have is acronyms.
That's right, exactly. Cousin of SEO, which is you're still getting asked about SEO on a daily basis almost, right? From advisors, right?
Yes, sir.
The search engine optimization. So, a lot of things are similar about how to get found in Google or get found on Bing, and then how to get referenced in AI overviews for Google and get found on ChatGPT. So one of the big things that's similar, and before all the marketers, if you're listening, you're like, whoa, it's so different. Okay, we'll get to the parts that are a little bit different. But one of the things that's really similar is just SEO best practices of, is your website crawlable and indexable? And what I mean by that is, can your website be found through the search engines? And then, is it able to be crawled? And typically, if you have your site on WordPress or HubSpot or one of these other platforms, you don't necessarily have to worry about that. But I will say that there are elements of your pages. Do they have a certain length, right? Do they have a clear title and meta description? Do they have, Are they structured with clear headers, right? So that it's very clear about what each page contains. Those are all things that we kind of take for granted in the SEO world. Those are table stakes type things for AI, because AI needs to be able to crawl it, I guess I would say. I would also say too, like, is it secure, right? HTTPS. And then also the page speed is still a factor, right? So it's not like going to be make or break it if it's kind of middle of the range page speed. But if there's some sort of technical issues in your code where it's taking forever to load certain images or the big hero section on your website, that will be a deterrent from AI, being able to crawl it with the crawlers that they employ, right? So those are just like basic technical SEO best practices that you want to make sure to be either found in traditional Google search or to be found in AI search.
Page speed, just so everybody knows, right? That's when somebody clicks the link, and it's the number of seconds and milliseconds actually that it takes before your page fully shows up, including images that are loaded and clickable links and text and so on and so on. Sometimes there's motion, and sometimes there's GIFs and whatever else that can all, and video is a big one that can impact page load speed time. So yes, that's just to clarify that's always been important. So yes.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. And you can actually on Chrome, you can, if you really want to get into it, you can use the page tools on Chrome, the dev tools, to be able to check the page speed of your website, and it'll give you like a little score and see how you're doing with that.
Yeah, just Google dev tools, page load speed. Yeah. It'll be the first one.
You're going to find that. Okay, so but much more applicable to SEO is something that Google's been preaching for years, and it's this entire idea of practicing EEAT, an EEAT methodology, and that is, another acronym.
Oh boy.
We're given more and more. Experience, right? Expertise, authority, and trust. Experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And this is something for any marketers that are potentially listening. This is something that you've seen over and over and over again with Google. So this is another similarity between SEO and GEO. Experience, sharing firsthand results and knowledge. Be interesting, right, with actual experiences that you have, your actual insights and perspectives. Instead of the slop that we see everyone AI is generating, right? GEO, these AI tools that are crawling, and the traditional Google algorithm is looking for insights. And so I would say, like, what does that look like? It's quotes that are attributed to an actual human being inside of your organization. I think that's a great way to share your experience. It's specific examples. This is something I have written down lower in some of the notes that I had prepared for this, but mentioning data and statistics as part of your experience is a huge boost to showing up in ChatGPT, right? I've seen this on the AI overviews and also in ChatGPT. When we start giving like data, 40%, you say almost half of all respondents versus 40% of respondents, AI wants to pull up that data, wants to pull up those statistics. Actually, I had a funny example from one client who didn't want to put these pricing models up on their site anymore. He wanted to take them down, and we kind of cautioned them against it, and they decided to do it. And Google found a Pinterest image, the Google AI overviews found a Pinterest image from 2013 that still had some of the cost information. You found that because we were willing to put the numbers in there, that was more applicable. And we've seen this too with the advisory firms, right? Like quoting statistics as part of your experience is something that gives you a lot more credibility. It's something that AI, the ChatGPT wants to cite. Right.
Insights and human stories and unique perspectives that an AI tool simply can't produce on its own. That's what it's looking for, you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it likes to cite it as well.
Yeah.
And then the other E, okay, so that's experience. And the next E is expertise. And this is something that, again, applicable to SEO, right? Like traditional SEO, Google likes to see that you're an authority on a topic. So a lot of times we would develop these content pillars or content clusters, and then you have a bunch of subtopics that were all related to the main content pillar. They're all linked back together with each other, and then Google sees that you're an authority. It sees this connection with your infrastructure around this particular topic, and so that it wants you to put you up higher in the search engine pages. Well, there have been some studies recently. I was just reading this great article that talked about reciprocal rank fusion, or RRF. So it's essentially that it's been around since 2009. It's widely used in information retrieval. What it does is it combines search results from multiple queries into one final ranking. And there's a lot of evidence that ChatGPT does that. And if you've actually watched ChatGPT do kind of performance operations, it'll do one search query, then it'll do another search query, then it'll do another search query, then it'll do another search query. And then the response that you get is a consolidation compilation of all the different pieces put together, right? So if you can look and see what it's querying for, right? It stands to reason that you want to be a topical, expert in all those different ways that it's trying to query. You want to show up in all those different queries so that it starts to reference you and cite you more on the consolidated approach. If you only spend one time writing about one article in one particular subtopic, you might show up on one of those queries where it's going to employ this, but 2, 3, 4, and 5, you're not going to show up. So you have less of a chance of getting results.
You might get left out of the RRF, the reciprocal rank fusion. You might be unfused. You might be left out of its answer, of its consolidated answer. Okay.
Exactly. Good. Yep. Exactly right. So again, this is another one where good SEO, right? Like you have one content pillar, you have all the subtopics. It's very similar. If you employ that type of approach, right, you can show up in Google traditional search. You also have a much better chance of AI search. Okay, so expertise, really important. And then authority, get quoted by well-known sites. So this is the big one. This is really like if we had, building mentions and co-citations, you build authority with these AI tools and also traditional search, but with these AI tools by your name, your name or your firm's name getting cited or quoted by these other reputable sites. Think about it like the traditional PR approach, right? Like, is Faustin Weber getting cited as an advisor in Forbes, or Faustin Weber getting cited in expertise.com? Always was valuable for a backlink from old school SEO practices, but now it's even more valuable that you are showing up as a reputable firm that's being cited by another reputable place. And so it enhanced the reason, since LLMs work based on language, right? So the more times your name shows up across different domains associated with those words, it stands to reason that the pattern that they're going to respond back to you with is, the firm that's showing up the most, right? Yeah. As it relates to those similar words. So, this is big. Being quoted, being mentioned in other websites associated with the topics that the prompt is doing is going to put you in a much higher likelihood of showing up on the results. Does that make sense?
I think it's a good practical example. Even just recently, we had one of our clients that was featured on the news in their local area, and the news station, they have the video, right? But then they also have a little write up on it, and so it said, commentary or quoted by Bjorn from Quarry Hill, a firm in Minneapolis, something like that. So we actually wrote back to the reporter, right, and said, do you mind changing it to Quarry Hill Advisors and using Bjorn's last name? Just making sure that stuff is in there, because the exact phrasing matters for your name and your I guess, your title, your company name, and maybe your tagline, you could say, a financial wellness expert in Minneapolis or something like that. Whatever that is, if you can get that to kind of repeat in as many places as possible that are reputable, that serves you really well. Because, the LLMs, like you said, they're searching and crawling for specific words. They're following, word by word by word. They're not, reasoning oh, Corey Hill, that's probably Corey Hill Advisors in Minnesota. They need to know it's Corey Hill Advisors spelled out for them. So, yeah, I think that's just a quick recent example, actually, that just happened last week.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, I would say too, like actually they're a great example for the T, right? Trust. So use real author bios, cite sources, include reviews and testimonials. Those are really big, right? Because they just like they give your website visitor more social proof, they also are something that's referenced in these AI search tools. And I would say too, like another spin look at the award question is what it gives you an extra level of trust and credibility with the AI tools. Awards do make a big difference. Going back to that client that you just referenced, right now they're showing up for all rankings around St. Paul, Minnesota, with advisory. Then any sort of reference to an advisor. I need an advisor around the St. Paul area, or I need, finding any sort of prompting with that. They're showing up as number one. And one of the things that actually comes back is they won an award for expertise.com. And one of the bullet points that ChatGPT says when they show up is recognized by expertise.com in June 2025 as one of the best in St. Paul. So that's a great example, practical example of like the citation on expertise.com mattering a lot. But also we call it out on their brand new website launch very clearly, like in multiple places on their website. So that's a good example of if you have those awards that you've paid all that money for the licensing, it kind of changes the example a little bit, right? Of whether or not you should pay for the licensing too, because if it's a good, reputable site, it actually helps you with these AI search rankings. But definitely, if you've won one and you've paid for it, make sure that it's represented as many times as you can get away with on the website, because I do think it does end up making a difference with this whole like citation question.
Nice. And if you want to hear more about that, go back to episode 9 where we talked about our financial advisor awards worth it. There's a lot of good stuff in there. All right, keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've done, I think, basics of SEO, show that you're worth trusting with the EEAT, build mentions and co-citations. I think we've talked about that a lot. And the number 4 kind of bleeds into that a little bit. It's distribute content across multiple channels where AI tools can discover it. So this is pretty closely linked to this whole like citation thing, right? Like you want your name and your firm's name around the topics that you want to be known for, known across the web, so that when AI brings it back, right? When AI does this model of doing these multiple queries, you show up a lot of times. One of the ways is mentions and citations. So the other way is distributing content across multiple channels. YouTube and Reddit are getting cited a lot right now. Okay, so not to mention Reddit is like number 1 on almost every single search query on the traditional Google approach. It's getting cited so much. It's getting sourced all the time. Now Instagram, if you have a public account, is now showing up in search results as well. LinkedIn shows up in some AI responses. So this is something that you need to think about, is like YouTube and Reddit, I think, are great ones to prioritize. We're seeing YouTube get a lot of great results for our clients just being by itself on the platform. It's one that's getting pulled in all the time in AI search. So distribute content, a lot of content around your particular topic areas. It helps you with the whole content authority expertise piece, and then it helps you by getting mentioned a lot so that you show up all over the place and when ChatGPT is trying to search for your particular prompt. I pulled some information about Reddit in particular, and I think we need to do an episode on just Reddit in general and like how to build a Reddit marketing plan, because I just continue to see good results from it. But this new study by the AirOps research team, they analyzed 500,000 questions on ChatGPT, and Reddit was cited 25% of the time. Okay, so that's one out of every 4 ChatGPT searches, some sort of version of Reddit is being pulled up, right? So
it's going to Reddit to find the information to get you the answer to your question.
Exactly.
1 in 4 times.
So if your firm is on YouTube or your firm is on Reddit, right? it's a higher likelihood that it's going to get referenced, right? So if you can kind of infer that whole bottom of the funnel, I'm looking for an advisor with stock options, more Reddit content that has your firm associated with it mentioned, right? As it relates to topics around whatever they're prompting, you have a higher likelihood of it coming back, right?
Yep.
And so there's a lot you can think about there. Where's your target audience living in Reddit? Where, who do you want to position with a personal brand, right? To potentially help provide educational content. We're doing this right now for one advisor, trying to go after a particular type of nurse. We're in the forums for the nurses, right? We're answering thoughtfully any sort of financial questions that come up.
It's us and the nurses. We're just hanging out.
Us
in the
and the nurses, right?
Yeah,
exactly. So, but for questions that nurses are going to be asking on ChatGPT, we're putting ourselves in a much better chance of getting our personal name referenced as an authority in the space. Okay, so what I would do is like test. Test prompts based on different stages of the funnel, and you can actually go into chat. I mean, you can use one of the tools. They're really expensive right now because everyone's trying to take advantage of the fact that this is a hot trend. But you can actually just go in and just like watch ChatGPT, watch what it tries to type in, watch what it sources, turn on the agent mode, and look how it progresses through the different websites. And you can pull a list of the ones it sources and think about, okay, how do I get myself referenced or cited in one of these responses, right? I see that it heavily favors smart asset in one of these top 10 lists every time someone searches for some local advisor. Mm-hmm. Is it worth me to think about smart asset as a part of a plan to try to get in one of their ridiculous top 10 rankings, right? That's the way that I would go about this, is kind of think about those two groups. Like, I'm looking for more information versus I'm a bottom of the funnel, like I'm looking for an advisor right now. And then the last thing I will say is, I've seen a lot of stuff. The number 6 thing that you would do is make sure that you have good structure, your headers, H2, H3 headers. This is just good SEO practice, but throw in some questions into those headers. It doesn't have to be all questions or anything like that, but we're seeing that, help a little bit, right, with getting responses back, to have your content like one idea per paragraph, right? Just make sure that it's easily accessed by AI. But I put that as the last one because I feel like that has been something that has been really blown up in a lot of cases by a lot of these influencers, and I don't know how much of a difference that makes. I mean, it's nice to have a nice FAQ where you try to answer the questions that potentially that people might be prompting, but everything that we've talked about with citations and being mentioned ahead of, those I think are much more valuable to prioritize versus going back in and looking at every H2 and H3 on your site and making sure all your paragraphs are formatted correctly. I don't know. Would you agree with that, Stephen?
No, that makes sense. I think I guess that relates to on-page SEO, traditional on-page SEO, which is like maybe 10 things, maybe not even, maybe it's 8 things that are like, I think of like page titles when you hover your mouse over the tab in your browser. What is the 70 characters that shows up, right? It should be optimized for your company name and your keyword phrases that you're going after, and a lot of people don't even have that still. But something like that, page titles, your meta description, which is the preview text that shows up on Google search, the small text that gives you 2 lines of like a preview of what the page is about, and then yes, the header, the H1, the header 1, the header 2, the header 3. I mean, to me that all kind of relates to traditional on-page SEO, which also relates to a user experience. Like, I think it's all kind of wrapped up into one. Like, if you're not doing a good job writing clear headers, from the start, then you're in trouble anyways, because you're not prioritizing the user, the visitor that's coming to your website. So fundamentals. These are like fundamentals that apply across SEO, GEO, and user experience. That's how I'd say it. So that's a fusion. Yeah, that's a RRF. That's my own RRF. Whatever fusion that is. The reciprocal rank. That's my own little fusion.
I think your goal should just be to create an acronym that actually sticks in the marketing world as a result of this podcast.
That'd be a dream. That's like more of like a lifetime goal than a short-term one.
That's your pinnacle. I mean, I'm not sure you could ever go off the cliff.
Speaking of North Star.
After that.
Yeah. For sure.
All right. Well, that's all I had. I think we've gone on.
All right, great. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any follow-up questions on this, which I think a lot of folks will, feel free to reach out, send us a message. You can find our website, craftimpact.com. You can find us on LinkedIn mostly, where we're sharing information there, and we'd love to follow up with any specific questions you have. So thanks a lot for listening. That's all for now.
All right, thank you.
All righty, bye now.